What is up, guys? Welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. Today, we got a virtual guest, and Tony and I are not in the same room together. So Tony's going to introduce our guest, though.
Yeah, Dakota's down in Florida. He just got his Florida house. He's a snowbird now, so he's trying out some new audio. We're working through all the little intricacies of it. This is Sharad. Let me make sure I get your last name right. Is it Mehta?
Yeah, that's perfect, man.
Sharad Mehta. He is the founder of RE Simply. So if you guys have seen all of those ads in our podcast, if you watch our podcast regularly, you see that advertisement almost every single time. And it is our favorite CRM because it's the most intuitive. It's the most natural to use. It's just, simply is in the name, but it is pretty simple. It gives you everything that you need from a real estate investing CRM. So it's our favorite CRM because of how easy it is to use and how many functions it's got. And Sharad's open to improving it too. So you can reach out to him and his team, and he's been improving it. He's also a real estate investor. And I was looking at, I have some of this like FBI quality skip tracing stuff. And so I was looking into Sharad, and he's got quite a few holding companies. He's got quite a few properties. He's got some flipping and stuff like that, wholesaling, that sort of thing going on. And Sharad is everywhere too. He lives in California, near the San Diego area, but he invests everywhere. I know that he's also invested in Indiana, just like us. So this is Sharad Mehta. Thanks for coming on, Sharad.
Thank you, man. Hey, I need to have that introduction sent over to me. I'm going to keep playing that for my wife all the time. And it's like, hey, I'm not such a bad person. Yeah. You should hear Tony and Dakota, what they have to say. Yeah. No, thank you, man. Thank you for having me. Yeah. Yeah. I need to find about that FBI skip tracing thing that you have going on. Yeah. I thought I hid my properties in all these different land trusts and whatnot, but yeah, cool, man. Yeah, no, I'm excited about this, the podcast.
Awesome. So I noticed, I was looking through your LinkedIn, I was looking at some of the education that you had and that sort of thing. It looked like you got a degree in accounting, and then you kind of started off in some financial development, got into being a tax accountant type, business advice. And then you became a CEO. Well, it looked like your company, specifically the real estate investing company. So when it comes to that line of work, that objective thinking, where you're constantly making rational and decisions that make sense, how do you think that that's helped you in the real estate investing business? How do you think that that's helped you decide to start a CRM company?
Yeah, man, great question. I've never been asked that question. That's a fantastic question. I think it's my accounting background. Now that I look at kind of everything I've done with recently, and we're launching another product next year. It's interesting, like how that accounting background has had a big influence in what I've done. Like if you look at recently, you cannot help but kind of see it's so KPI driven, and you cannot use recently and not get value out of the KPI part of it. So the way I like to think of it is like we started with, okay, what is the data that we wanted to have at the end? And I think that comes from the accounting background, looking at the numbers. And another thing that influenced was the fact I used to live in Chicago. That's why I started investing in Indiana. So I invested in Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago. And when I moved to Carlsbad, San Diego area where I live now, my thought process was, okay, I'm living 4-hour flight away from where I invest. How do I make sure I make the best decisions? It's not based on what people are telling me. It's based on what numbers are telling me. People are going to make up stuff. Numbers are not going to make up stuff, right? 2 + 2 will always be 4. It will never be 3. It will never be 5. It will always be 4. So that was kind of the thought process going into developing recently was, hey, I want to have something that tells me exactly what's going on in my business. Of course, I want to get feedback from my team members, but at the end of the day, I want to make decisions based on the numbers. So I think that going back to kind of what you asked, comes from my education and my, the corporate career before going, investing and starting recently.
Have you been thinking about investing in real estate?
It's not like what you see on HGTV.
We created a course to show you how to really invest and create a profitable flipping and wholesaling business.
We show you where to find the money, how to find the deals, and how to negotiate the deals.
We go over live sales calls, including negotiations, scripts, role-playing, and so much more.
Everything that you need to know to flip houses is in this course. And if there's a video that we didn't make that you want, we'll make it for you.
This knowledge has made us well over $1 million, and it's available right now for $9.97. Click the link below.
Buy the course. Before we get too far into the KPIs in the business, because I know we're definitely going to head that direction, do you see yourself, do you see the drawbacks to that part of you because you're so objective, numbers driven, rational, that sort of thing? Do you feel like it takes away from your intimate relationship? Like you just jokingly said, like, hey, my wife won't think I'm such a bad person if she listens to your intro. Do you see an issue with balance in your life where you're so good at what you do and knowing how to hack things and rationalize them and make them work, that you feel like you suffer in like the feelings department? You're really good at thinking. Are you as good in intuition and feeling and being a good partner and that sort of thing?
I think so. I mean, like there's always going to be, like, life is always going to be work in progress, right? It's never going to be just looking at, anything. It's never going to be like perfect, right? Whether it's a CRM or any relationship, right? There's always going to be room for improvement. The thing that you have to keep in mind, which I do in my personal and business life, is always making sure I'm getting feedback, right? Always making sure I'm getting feedback, but I'm not going and making assumptions that, hey, this thing is going absolutely perfect. Just going back to like recently, we're very, very open to getting feedback. We always make sure we're reaching out to our users. As you guys have noticed, sure you've noticed that we always make sure we reach out to our users and then, hey, what else can we do? Because at this point, recently is way beyond my business needs. Like a lot of the stuff we're developing, I personally don't use it in my business because, like the initial first couple of years served my business need. It's grown beyond that. So for me, to make sure we keep developing the right things, we reach out to active investors like you guys. Say, what else could we be doing? Same thing on the personal life. Like the only way to improve that is asking my wife. I ask her once a week, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate our relationship? If it's anything less than 10, what could I do to get a 10? So, that's the feedback that I want to keep getting. The same thing we do on recently, asking our users, even internally with our team members. We have dozens of team members in CS team. The head of our CS department, Ted, he has to meet one-on-one with every single team member that we have in Philippines and ask them how would we rate their experience working with recently on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being absolutely happy, best job in the world. 1 being, hey, you're going to be getting my 2-week notice tomorrow. So we ask them because we want to find out if they're happy. That's the only way they're going to make our users happy. So it's like, a never-ending feedback loop that you want to keep making sure you keep getting every single week or, on a regular basis.
It's funny because we just did something very similar to that actually in our business. The COO went out and then asked everybody for feedback. So yeah, that's awesome. I think that Tony knew that I wanted to ask about the KPIs. So he's like, all right, let's make sure we get this question first. So what KPIs? Because like obviously RE Simply, man, like it's got a lot, right? There's a lot of KPIs. There's a lot of different things to track. You have, in my opinion, like almost an overload of tracking, which is a great thing. What KPIs do you say? Like, let's say you have the top 10, right? So let's just say, what are the main ones that you're tracking? And let's say a rental, wholesale, or just overall real estate business. What KPIs are you looking at more than any of the rest?
I would say, like, when you think of real estate investing business, when you guys look at your business, like generally for most investors, their biggest expense on their P&L would be marketing. Marketing, payroll, between those two, generally, right? Marketing tends to be the biggest payroll for most companies you would see. They're spending anywhere from, 20 to 30, 40% of their revenue in marketing. So when you look at the KPIs, if you can take that one number, your marketing number, and you can make it more efficient. So let's say if you're spending 40% of your, let's say you have 7-figure revenue, $1 million, you're spending 400,000 on that to get to that $1 million. If you can somehow keep that revenue $1 million, and instead of spending 400,000, you only have to spend 300,000, the entire $100,000 saving goes into your pocket. That's your net revenue that goes up. It'll actually be more because you'll be able to cut other expenses because now you're being more efficient with your marketing. So you may not need as many people on your team, but let's just say at a minimum, you get that. So for me, some of the most important number that I would want to look at is my ROI, right? For every dollar that I'm spending in marketing, how much money am I making in my business? I would say that's the most important one that I would want to look at. And then you would want to look at, other numbers also. So let's say if your ROI from, let's say Facebook ads is 50, right? You're like, oh, this is amazing. But how many leads are you getting? How many deals are you getting out? If you're only getting one deal a year, do you really want to invest into that versus, your ROI from direct mail might be, let's say 8, for every dollar that you put into it, you're getting $8 back into it. That's the one, but you're consistently getting deals out of it, consistently getting, 4 to 5 deals out of it. That's the one I would want to drill down more into it and see, okay, what else can I do to grow my, revenue from direct mail? Am I spending enough? Could I spend more money into it? And the other marketing channels that you have where your ROI is less than, let's say, less than 3, I would look into it and see, does it make sense for me to keep doing it? If I have limited marketing budget, does it make sense for me to put more money into direct mail and take money away from, let's say, cold calling, for example, that has ROI of 2 to 3. That doesn't make sense for me to take money away from cold calling, put it into direct mail, which is giving me 8x on my money. So those are the numbers I would look at, your ROI and how many deals you're getting out of it, and then start tweaking those numbers. Because if you can start tweaking that, all of that money is going directly into your net profit. Everything is going into your net profit. And then that's where you can really start adding efficiency. So those would be the most important ones I would look at. And then, as your business scales, as you're getting more advanced, then I would start looking at the conversion KPI. There's a little bit more advanced KPIs. They're all in Simply, but the more advanced would be, okay, how many leads do I need to go get an appointment? How many leads before I get an offer? How many offers do I need to make before I get a property under contract? Those are a little bit more advanced KPIs that you would want to start looking into, but at a fundamental level, your ROI is one thing. How many deals you're getting, like your cost per lead, cost per deals would be like the fundamental ones that you should really know.
How did you end up in like the CRM space in general? Like, were you an investor and you're like, man, I really need a CRM? Or were you like creating the CRM, then you saw that you're doing it for investors, and so you're like, oh, let me go do what they're doing?
Are you letting deals fall through the cracks because you don't have good systems in place?
We've been there before, and honestly, we've tried several different CRMs, and RE Simply has been the absolute best.
RE Simply tracks your KPIs, does automatic follow-ups for you, and even records incoming phone calls.
The system is very easy to use, and honestly, it has more features than we even know what to do with.
If you're looking for a great CRM, try RE Simply today.
Click the link in the description below.
Check it out now.
No, so I used to live in Chicago until August 2015. And then August 2015, we moved to the San Diego area for my wife's job. I don't think if I had continued living in Chicago, I don't think I would have ever started a company because I was running such an inefficient business living in Chicago, being so close to Indiana. I had such an inefficient business where I didn't even see a need for a CRM. And also, it was also a factor of the fact that I was doing mostly buying properties from MLS. So just around that time, I started doing direct to seller marketing. So it just happened that I moved to San Diego area. I'm doing more direct to seller marketing. And I'm like, okay, I was doing about 40, 50 flips a year. Like, okay, I need to look at something to manage my business, manage my direct to seller marketing, manage my numbers, manage my team members. So I started looking at what was available in the market, like what mostly people were using. It was like pretty much Podio was like the main software everyone. I just didn't like the way it looked. I just didn't like the idea of hey, I would go get Podio, but then I would have to get all these different things, you know. I just didn't like the idea of it. It didn't make any sense. It's like me going to a restaurant and then getting my food from one place, then going to another restaurant, getting my drink, and then going to third restaurant, getting my, entree from that, and then bringing it on. It didn't like, I like to think in very simple terms. It just didn't make sense to me. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to hire a couple of developers, make something very specific for my business. And then that's kind of where it started from. But the goal, the vision from day one was everyone on my team had to be on that platform. Like that was the vision, that everyone on my team should be on that platform. We shouldn't have to need anything. And literally, we don't use anything else in our business, nothing. We don't pay for any other subscription. Everything we're doing is all from within the ReSimply now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was the kind of the idea, with the vision, and started with the CRM. I didn't even know what CRM was. Like, that's how naive. I had no idea what CRM was. I just understood, okay, this is what I need in my business to solve the problem that I have. The thought process, if it doesn't add value to anybody else, but if it helps me get a couple of more deals, helps me make up, $40,000-$50,000 extra, totally worth it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were in college, you got out of college, you started getting a few different jobs, that sort of thing. Was there anything that pushed you into real estate? Was it something that you were always told growing up? What influenced you? Like, why real estate? Why did you decide to go the direction of being a real estate investor?
Yeah, man, great question. It was honestly freedom of time and money. That was the goal, freedom of time and money. I wanted to be able to do things that I'd really enjoy doing, and not be tied to a job. I was making good money. I think I left my job in 2010 or 11. Yeah, 2011, March 2011. I was making about $75,000. I was up for a promotion. I was up for a bonus, when I left my job. But for me, it was freedom of time and money. Like, real estate just happened to be what I came across. But before that, I wanted to be a full-time poker player. I thought that would be super cool. I wanted to play World Series of Poker, but I suck at poker. I'm just horrible. I'm horrible at poker. And then I started investing in stocks and bonds. I don't think I have the temperament for that. I'll just like keep refreshing my browser. Hey, did my stock go up? And then like real estate kind of seemed like more my pace. It's like you get rich. It doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen eventually. It will happen. It's just a matter of time if you do the right things. With real estate, I felt like I control my destiny, unlike poker or stocks and bonds, right? Real estate, I feel like, okay, I was in control of my financial future, and it's not going to happen overnight. I'm okay. I'm a patient person. I am not in any like quick, hey, I want to be like millionaire by tomorrow. So I was cool with that. And, it's been, that's kind of what led me down the real estate path.
And so tell us about your portfolio too, because I did not realize that you did a lot of flips. I thought you mostly had rentals. Like, what does your like portfolio look like now? You're doing like a certain amount of flips, certain amount of rentals, stuff like that. What does it look like today?
Yeah, so I have about 50 rental doors, and 45 of them are paid for free and clear. That was also very intentional decision from the beginning, that I wanted to have a very free and clear portfolio. The 5 units that I have loans on, it's about like $50,000 worth of loans. So it's not much, but it's at like 5%. So I'm just keeping it, not in any rush to pay that off. But I was very intentional. Like when I started investing, this was like back when 2008, 9, 10, like the whole real estate market collapsed. And when you look at kind of what was the reason, it was because people were over leveraged. So that's kind of my thought process. Hey, this disaster happened because people took too much loan on their properties. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be very conservative. I'm going to have enough portfolio where I can just have financial freedom for myself. And, I understand, like, being an accounting background, numbers, I could get loans on these properties. Instead of 50 units, I could have 150 to 200 units, but that's not what my goal is. I'm just happy having 50 units, having free and clear cash flow coming in. So that's kind of what I started. And then I started flipping properties. So right now, what we do now is about 20, 25 flips. I'm not much involved. I spend maybe 30 minutes to an hour in my business actively per week. But my other team members manage that. We do about 20, 25 flips a year. And then the cash flow that I get from that, I use in either buying other rental properties or other investments.
Pulling data lists like vacant houses, mortgage foreclosures, and tax delinquent properties is important to direct-to-seller marketing.
Batch Leads is the main platform where we store our sellers' data and skip trace owners for their phone numbers, emails, and addresses.
On other platforms, you end up having to pay twice for the same contact if you've already skip traced it. My favorite thing about Batch Leads is that if you've skip traced a contact once, you never have to pay for that contact again.
Batch Leads has SMS texting campaigns, direct mail marketing, and Driving for Dollars app integrated in a simple-to-use interface.
Click the link below and try Batch Leads today.
Cool. What KPIs are you tracking for, let's say, like, if you have a project manager, for like a transaction coordinator, for an assistant, like, is there certain metrics that you're looking at? And then what standard do you hold them to?
Yeah, so for our project management, we look at our cash in to cash out. That's the most important one, right? We don't want to just look at the net profit. If a $50,000 that I make in a year, it's not the same as $50,000 that I make in 3 months. That's totally different numbers, right? If I buy a property first of the year, right, and I rehab it and I can sell it by, let's say, end of March. Now I have the same 100,000, let's say it was for $100,000. Now I have the same $100,000 to invest in another project. And if I'm, just like hypothetically, if I'm able to do this, if I have a property lined up April 1st, I can use the same $100,000 4 times in a year, right? And make $200,000 from the 100,000, assuming, $50,000 profit per property. Now the same $100,000, if I put it in a deal on first of the year, I don't sell it until the end of the year, make 50,000. My ROI just for that project, it's still 50,000 on 100,000. But when you look at annualized return, I've lost the opportunity to make another $150,000 because I wasn't efficient enough, right? Yeah. So for us, for project management, the most important KPI is once, of course, the ARV makes sense, the rehab numbers make sense. Based on that, our purchase price makes sense. Like the worst mistake we can make in our business is overpay for a property. If we pay $200,000 for a $150,000 property, there's nothing we can do. Absolutely nothing. There's like, we're just basically going to lose money. So for us, the number one thing is make sure we buy it at the right price based on being conservative with our ARV and rehab numbers. But once we've done that, then what we control is in and out. We want to be as efficient as we possibly can. So our goal is 90 days, depending on whatever project it is. If it's an FHA, it's going to be longer. But if we're selling turnkey property to another investor, the goal should be 90 days from the time money goes into a project to the money comes out. So this includes getting permits, rehab. Sometimes it gets delayed. If you buy a property and it's tenant occupied, it may delay it by a month or so because we have to evict the tenant. But ideally 90 days from the time money goes in to the time money comes out. And then my project manager, she gets compensated as a percentage of the bonus. So the more money we make, the more efficient we are with the money, the more money she makes, because we take of our total cost that goes into a project, we take 1% of that total cost per month as our holding cost on the project. So that covers marketing, interest cost and other stuff. So we take 1%. So if the project is $100,000 all in, and let's say we make 50,000, it took us 1 year to do the project. So 12,000 is coming out of the 50,000 before she gets the percentage. Now, if we did the project in 3 months, right, only 3,000 is coming out. So she's getting percentage on 47,000 instead of 38,000.
Got it. And that's that you said that's 1% of the project
cost.
Like project cost. That's the house plus the rehab.
Everything.
Got it.
Yeah. Total money that we put into that project.
I like that. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, just to keep it very simple. Yeah, just to keep it very simple. So it's like easy number to calculate. And then my project manager, I don't have to tell her, hey, can we rush up the project? Because then she's doing that, because otherwise it's a percentage coming out of her pocket.
I like that. Yeah, that's what we're always looking for, is exactly the same setup as you do. Ours is set up a little bit differently, but I like your structure a lot. What about your transaction coordinator? Do you have anything, KPIs that you're looking at there, or anything to track? Or
Not really. Like, we work with the same title company, so it's a pretty straightforward process for us. Like, with LINKTREE, simply, like, as soon as the document is executed when we're buying a property, it goes over to a title company, and they already have all the documents. It's a pretty streamlined process for us. Unless there is any title issues, like, it's like from the time we sign the contract to the time that the closing date, it goes pretty smoothly for us. We've
you
had
said
to
Ari. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
So you said Ari simply automatically sends it over to your title company?
Yes.
Wow.
So
Okay.
you can set it up, like, when you're setting up your e-sign, once the like the initial two people have signed, let's say buyer and seller, then you can put CC as someone. So once they've signed, it automatically goes over to that person. So you don't even have to send it over. So you can do that. Yeah, I mean, we backed out of, or we didn't back out, but we had to cancel one contract this year because the seller just, there were some title issues with it. But then our title company would look into that. They already know the process. So it's not something that we honestly really have to manage. And again, we're doing like 20-25 deals a year. So it's not like, we have some investors that are doing 20-25 deals a month using recent. So for them, it's a bigger challenge that they have to deal with. There's like a lot of moving pieces. Ours is a pretty straightforward business. We're closing on these. We're not wholesaling anything.
Yeah, that's where we're at too, is we're doing like 20 to 25 a month.
Exactly. Yeah. So for you guys, that becomes a big factor. For us, like doing a couple of deals a month, pretty straightforward, unless there's a title issue. That's pretty straightforward. Working with the same title company on buy side and sell side.
That's awesome. And then for that DocuSign, this is more for my personal, but is that an additional cost, or like, does that come with RE Simply, or are you going to start sending people that to sign through our?
No, it's an additional cost, which is
okay.
Like, yeah, it's I don't know, like, depending on the volume, it's anywhere from like 50 cents to $1 per document that you send out.
Okay. Yeah, that might be worth it for us, though, just to streamline that process, take out one step, because I think we're paying for DocuSign anyway, so it might be something. I'll look into that, but that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Yeah.
Cool.
So Sharad, I'm thinking of the folks who are listening, and we have some folks who are a little bit newer to real estate investing. I'm imagining that your first deal, you were probably a lot more organized, it sounds like. But if you could go back to the very first time that you bought a property, or one that like just ended up being you kind of just starting to figure things out and that sort of thing, like an inspirational story for our viewers, so that they don't feel like you're just blowing them out of the water with your knowledge and expertise.
I walked barefoot for 10 miles to get my first property. No, just kidding. Yeah, no, it's honestly, man, I bought my first property August 2010. My whole thought process was, I did a bunch of research, but you're never going to feel confident, like never, ever going to feel confident. You're never going to go in and say, I should say, I would have never felt confident. I'm sure there are other people out there way more confident than I am. I would have never felt 100% confident. My whole thought process was, all right, I'm going to make an offer on this property at such a price where, like, there's absolutely no way I'm going to lose money. So the first property I bought, August 2010, I still own this property to this day. It was listed was $65,000. I made an offer $20,000, right? My thought, again, this is like 2010, okay? Different times. I made an offer $20,000. My thought process, what's the worst thing that's going to happen is the seller is going to say no and think I'm an idiot. That's all right. My wife already thinks that. I'm cool with that. So I'm going to make an offer of $20,000 and see what the seller comes back with. Dude, I ended up getting their property for like $22,500 or $25,000. I don't remember, but it was roughly like $25,000 less, right? I put $10,000 into it. I was all in for $35,000. It was a 2-unit. I rented both units out for about $1,300 combined, roughly. And like, even after I got their property, I got it rehab. I put the property in Craigslist. My mind is going, why would somebody rent from me? Like, you have all these doubts. Like, why would somebody rent my property? You're just like constantly questioning yourself. but it was at a price. I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm gonna lose money. It's like it doesn't make any sense. Like and I'm thinking, even if I overpaid for this property, even if I paid 35,000 more than I should have paid, which is a basic, the property is worth zero. If somebody is willing to write me a check every month for rent, I don't care. Like I was being very, very, very conservative. Did the same thing with my second property. Then I decided, so the second property was a month later, 3-unit property. Then I sat down with my wife at a Panda Express in downtown Chicago. I said, look, I think I'm going to leave my job and go give this a shot full time, because the downside is the money that we're investing. I'm being absolutely wrong with what I think I'm doing, and I end up losing everything. So the worst case is, all right, we're still young. I lose everything and I can get this job again in a year or two. But the upside is, if everything works out half as good as I'm thinking, it's going to be pretty amazing. Because the upside was much, much higher than the risk of downside. So that was kind of the thought process going into it. But I don't think I was ever like 100% confident. It's like at some point, like you have to just like jump off the cliff and, trust the parachute is going to open. So that's kind of what I did. I'm like, man, just the numbers make sense. At the end of the day, it kind of goes back to, Tony, the initial question you had about my background. It's like everything goes back on like trusting the numbers, right? You still have doubts, but if you trust the numbers, it should work out, unless you miss something else. If you miss something else, then you want to make sure the next time you make that decision, you factor that in. So it's an ever evolving process. And like you're always trying to get better every day with every decision that you're making.
That's what I was gonna say too. Is like that's always the advice that I give. Is like make so much sense that you're not gonna lose money. The funniest part is, like you said like you never feel 100%, and I don't think that many people understand how true that is, because even us now, we're buying 20 to 25 a month. We still are unsure. We just again we run the numbers based on what we do know, and we make the best decision we can with the information that we have.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're getting 2 properties under contract today. I huddled with my team. Like, I don't even look at the numbers, but my project manager, Claudia, she tells me, she lives like an hour north of me. She tells me, hey, this is what the ARV is. This is, what the range our agent gave us, but I'm being conservative. This is what I'm taking. This is what our rehab would be. And based on that, she puts in the calculator. This is what our maximum. I'm like, okay, we haven't lost money on a deal in a long time. So I trust her number that what she's doing is right. But will I ever do I feel 100% confident? No, but I'm just going based on the numbers. And then you just worry about the things that are in your control. Anything outside of that, you can't really do anything about that.
Yeah.
But I feel like with every deal, you start getting a little bit more confident, but I don't think it ever gets like 100%, but maybe it'll go from like 80 to 80.2%, then 80.3. You just start feeling a little bit more confident with every deal.
Yeah. And the coolest part too is whenever you do so many, like it's okay to lose money, because now you've got so much. Yeah. On the other ones, you're like, yeah, I could take a little loss now because I made so much money. There's no way I'm going to take that big of a loss.
Exactly. Because if you had not picked up that property, you would have missed like 5 other deals where you made so much money that the one that you lost money on, it doesn't even matter. So it's going to happen. It's just like, if you do enough deals, there's going to be some good deals. There's going to be some bad deals. Like if I look at 50 units, does every single unit cash flow every single month? No. That's why you have enough units where majority of them are going to cash flow. Some are going to be on average and some are going to be below average, but your overall portfolio will perform kind of what you expect overall. But if you look at every single unit, it should cash flow, then you're just going to drive yourself crazy. Why is this unit not cash flowing?
Yep. Yeah, that actually brings me to my next question. I think that I heard you say your strategy is to sell your flips to turnkey. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, so we sell most of the flips that we do now is to other turnkey investors. So I own a property management company also. So we, it depends. The market is a little bit kind of tricky right now. So the 2 properties that we got under contract, one of them is going to be a flip, your typical retail flip. The other is a 2-unit property that we're going to sell to another investor.
Okay. And what made you decide to go that route? Was that just because like everybody's asking you because you're in property management, like, hey, I need some deals. Like, oh, hey, I got this one. I'll sell it to you. Or like what made you decide to go that strategy as opposed to just retail, or you holding them or something different?
Yeah, it was like kind of once I started sharing with people what I'm doing, they're like, hey, I want to do this also. So I was on a Bigger Pockets podcast. So then kind of shared, what I'm sharing with you guys. And people start contacting me. I didn't even know what like turnkey was and how to do it. Like people would like, hey, can you help me buy this? And I'm like, okay. And then that's where the turnkey business started from. And then once we got enough properties, then I'm like, okay, it makes sense for me to have my in-house property management company. Yeah, I mean, I love turnkey more than doing retail flip just because it's, we have in-house property management company, makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, we do, depending on the project, like where it makes sense, if it's going to be a good cash flowing property, then we'll keep it as a turnkey. If not, then we'll keep it as a retail flip.
Cool. So I want to ask my one tax accountant question so I can get it off here because I've been wanting to ask it
Oh my God.
the
Yeah,
entire time.
Yeah, let me call my accountant. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm having some disagreements with our current tax accountant. Okay. And so we have our S Corp that does of our flipping, right? We're flipping, I don't know, a couple hundred properties a year, let's just say. Well, sometimes the retail flip doesn't end up working out. So we take it off market and then we sell it on land contract. And so what they're doing is they're charging us as if we received all the money instead of like an installment sale because they said that business is a flipping business. I said, okay, well, let's solve that problem. We'll open up another company over here and then we'll move it from this one to this company. Like, oh, you can't do that. And well, I was talking to another guy that said we have not designated what that property is for yet because the calendar year has not ended. And so my question is like, is there a way that you could think of in order to actually have this be an installment sale so we're only taxed on the money that we receive as opposed to paying all of the whole flip money?
Yeah, that I have everything pretty simple in, I mean, you guys already know Tony's already done all the digging on me, but I own all my properties in separate trust, and all the trusts are owned by an LLC, and then I'm the beneficiary of or member of the LLC. I have not done S Corp, but what you're saying just off the surface, it doesn't sound right to me. It doesn't sound right to me. Like if it's an installment sale, it might be something to do with how you have it structured. That might have something to do with it, but it doesn't sound right to me. Like to me, if it's an installment sale, you should not have to pay taxes on it, when like all in 1 year. But I would talk to like a couple of other accountants. I don't practice anymore. It's been a long time ago. Thank goodness for that. But I would check with like a couple of other accounts. It doesn't sound right to me. I would definitely question it if my accountant told me that. Let's just put it this way. If my accountant told me that, I would go check with a couple of other accountants.
Yeah, I think our accountant is getting more conservative the more that we work with them. So
yeah, I think that might be like, it's like, oh, you guys are doing like 20, 25 deals a month. So maybe he's trying to do something to like protect you in some way or whatnot. But I would definitely check with a couple of other accountants.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Sharad, you've gotten promoted a lot by some influencers. Like Ryan Dawsey is probably one of the biggest affiliate marketers that you've got that recommends your product to other people. How important has it been to create social media, get on those podcasts like Bigger Pockets, talk to folks who have a great following like Ryan Dawsey? How much has that improved your business, and what percentage does that account for when it comes to your total sales?
Oh, yeah, man. I've said this to Ryan Dawsey several times. Like I'll be forever grateful to him because it's funny. Ryan and I met at a mastermind. We were in the same mastermind. It's funny. I went into that mastermind. This was like 2019. I went into the mastermind. This was like Feb 2019. Went into the mastermind. Just pretty much made up my mind that I'm going to shut down recently. I was just like, we weren't doing much, like, it's just too much work. It's not worth it. That mastermind kind of changed things. And that's where I met Ryan Dawsey. And he was like the first influencer that kind of, I sat down. He was living in San Diego at that time also. So we connected, I sat down and he's like, yeah, hey, I'm going to promote it to my audience. And that just kind of gave us a a big boost. If that had not happened, most likely like Recently would not even exist anymore. So I forever grateful to Ryan Dossey for that. But yeah, man, like social media, it's something that's been a very interesting journey. I'm not on any social media. I don't have any Instagram, TikTok, nothing. I just have a Facebook account, because I'm super old school, and I just literally have a bookmark on my browser. I click, it just takes me to the Facebook group of Recently. I don't do anything. I don't even remember the last time I posted on Facebook. So, but I do understand. I think when I started the company, I was very naive, thinking that, hey, I'm just going to create that great product that I have, and like people would use it. Like, why would they not use it? It's like when you buy something, like buy a car, you buy the best car based on the reviews. So kind of that's the thought process I had. I'm going to just create a product that is going to be so awesome. Why would people not want to use it? Yeah, that's not the case, man. It doesn't happen like that. I mean, I believe we have the best product on the market, but it's interesting in the day of social media, the day and age that we live in, like how important it is to have those relationships to get the backing of the right people. So now we have someone on our team that kind of helps us do that. But yeah, initially it wasn't a priority. Where I was very naive, thinking, all right, I'm just going to create this product, everything else will take care of itself. But it doesn't work like that. I'm still not active on social media. I don't plan to, but that's someone on our team kind of building those relationships, reaching out and doing, the other activities that they need to do. Yeah, but great question, man.
Awesome. Thanks. And then what percentage of your total business revenue comes from affiliates? Is it a big percentage? Like if I was going to go start a CRM company tomorrow, would you be like, hey, it's not going to sell on its own. You're going to have to find some influential people to promote it. What percentage would you say comes through affiliate marketing?
I don't have the exact number, but I'd say it's a pretty significant percentage. Like I'll give you another, like we're launching another product for agents like next quarter, right? Our biggest number one marketing strategy is reaching out to other influencers, hands down. Like that's the fastest way to scale. It's like getting in front of the right people. Yeah. So like we're literally launching another product for agents, and then we're going after the influencers in that space.
Can you give us that code for the agents and stuff too? Or like, can we use the same code that we send out or whatever? Because obviously, like we like RE Simply. We've worked with a lot of other CRMs. We think it's the best one for investors. If we wanted to like say, hey, other realtors, you should use this too. Yeah. Can we use the same one, or is it going to be a different code?
It's going to be a totally different product. Like initially, we were going to brand it under Recently, but just we decided it makes sense not to confuse anyone with kind of what Recently stands for now. We decided it's going to be a totally different product. So yeah, we'll set up like basically same landing pages or affiliate links for the agent side of the business. But yeah, it's like we decided to run it as two separate companies. So it's not like you log into Recently, you go into either agent or investor. It's like Recently, it's for investors, will always be for investors. The other product is for agents and will always be for agents. So it's like built very specific, like Recently is built just for investors. The other product is built just for agents.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the feds have said that maybe they'll be dropping interest rates in 2024.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday. Yeah.
Are you excited for interest rates to go down or indifferent?
I don't know, man. Like I'm like, just all right. I'm going to take a long route to answer your question. So lately, I've been reading a lot about Stoicism. Right? I don't know how much you guys know, but the fundamental principle of Stoicism is basically you worry about the things that you control, things that are outside your control. There's nothing you can do. No need to worry about that. So that's the mindset I take. If they do it, if they ask me, what should I do? Yeah, drop the rate, but that's not going to happen. So I don't control that. Based on what I've been learning and reading from my Stoicism studying, it's like, hey, that's outside of my control. Only thing I control is how I deal, what I do on a day-to-day basis, how I show up, what what the market is presenting us. And that's kind of what I do. So yeah, I mean, I'm indifferent. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, great. Like either there's always going to be opportunities out there. You just have to kind of adjust based on what the market is providing you.
Awesome. Yeah, if you decide to keep going down the personal development route, I have a really good hub they do a personal development seminar in LA that I'm really passionate about, that I try to get people to go to. So if you decide that you want to go to a personal development seminar about why you do what you do and why you don't do the things you'd like to, kind of thing, there's one pretty close to
Yeah,
you.
send it over to me, man. Now I've been like lately a lot into Stoicism. It's like kind of helped me a lot on the personal side, business side. So it's been really great for me.
What are you doing for Stoicism? Like I know like Ryan Holiday has a bunch of books. You like reading his books, or like is there
I'm reading
like a
his
counselor?
book. No, I'm reading his book. I read Marcus Aurelius's Meditation. So I read that. I'm reading Ryan Holiday's books. I mean, it's not like it's the same. Basically, there's like 3 or 4 core principles of Stoicism, right? So it's like applying the same thing, like reminding yourself of the same thing over and over again. Like the biggest one being like you worry about the things that are in your control. Like, for example, let's say, and I talk to my team also. It's kind of just helps me in my business and personal side also. So I talk to my team. I say, look, guys, our CS team, it's not in our control whether a user or if a user, I should say, it's not in our control whether a user gives us a 5-star rating or not, right? The only thing we control is how quickly we get back to them with the right information. That's the only thing we control. That's the only thing we need to worry about. If we give them everything they need, right? They still choose to give us a 1-star rating. There's nothing we could have done. Did we do everything we could have we control? Yes. Then things should happen, what we expect. If it doesn't, it's totally fine. It's like losing weight, right? The only thing you control is going to gym and eating healthy. If you do those 2 things, you will lose weight. It's just a matter of time. If you're going to gym, eating healthy, and you're not losing weight, either you're not going to gym long enough, not doing the right thing, or what you think is healthy is not healthy. Going to McDonald's is not healthy if you think, hey, I'm just having my hamburger without cheese on them, or having my fries not having ketchup, but that's not healthy, So like you have kind of what the end result you want, and then you look at the activities that go into that, right? And then you see, okay, the end result you don't really control, you control the activity. So that's what you focus on day in, day out.
I like that. I feel like sales, we use very similar, terms like, hey, did you do everything you could do and everything that's in
exactly.
your control? Yeah. The main thing that I would I wonder though is I feel like I'm kind of naturally more stoic, and I feel like Tony is too, where we're kind of like just again naturally like that in some ways. Obviously, some of it's learned, but then what I always wonder, like the same thing I asked you one time when I jumped on a Zoom call with you, I'm like, are you happy? Like, do you think that stoicism, like true stoicism, produces that happiness? Because it almost feels like you can't get too high, you can't get too happy, you can't get too low either. But man, that medium is sometimes like that's where I've kind of forced myself to be in sales. Don't get too hyped, because guess what? That deal might fall through. So don't get too excited about it, because I've had that happen where I got excited and then it fell through. And also, whenever I start to get too low, I'm like, I can bring myself up to midline, but then I kind of stay in there where I can't have the highs and lows, which I feel like experience like happiness in life. What do you think about that?
I don't know, man. I don't feel forced. Like I just naturally feel that way, that, hey, if something good happens, great. Something bad happens, great. Like, I don't know. I feel like if there's something I could have controlled, then I need to take action on it, right? Let's say if, I have a flight to take and it's, there's a storm, like what good is it going to do if I, scream at the, the flight attendant? Like, is it going to do any good? Like I'm reading Ryan Holiday's book, and it talks about, it's funny, I tried this with my son yesterday, 7-year-old, and, it was like whining about something. And I said, hey, I understand you're whining, but is it helping? If it is, then keep whining. If not, then why are you whining? I mean, he's 7 years old. He's looking at me like, Dad, you're crazy. But when you think about it, like it's just such a simple thing. Like if you really just focus on like in your business, like you said, sales, right? If you just focus on the calls that you're making day in, day out, right? And you're still not getting the results, then you need to look at the call quality, right? Are you asking the right thing? That's where you start tweaking, right? What are the things that you can change, that you can control and change? And it's just a matter of time before you start seeing the results. If you're still not getting the results, then there's something either in the action that you're putting in, the input that you're putting in, or you're putting, input against the wrong thing. Like if like there's a concrete wall behind me, like it doesn't matter how many times I punch it, it's not going to fall down. So that my input doesn't matter. What I'm expecting, it's not physically possible. So like that's what you have to do. I personally don't feel forced. I feel like content. I feel like liberated. There's some other Stoic principles that talk about, don't be overheard complaining, not even to yourself. Like just imagine, like, I mean, it's these things are much easier said than done, but if you push yourself to the point where you're not even complaining to yourself about something, right? It just like puts you in a different state of mind where like, hey, I'm just going to worry about the things that are in my control and then just be content with that. At the end of the day, if I'm going to bed and saying, hey, I did everything I could with what was in my control, and what happened outside of it, there's whether it happened in my favor or not, did I do everything I could have? Yes, and great. If not, then I still, feel good about the effort that I put in.
I wanted to make a comment on Stoicism too, and I feel like this is getting pretty long right near the end where we usually end the podcast. So this is going to get really philosophical. I do like a lot of the principles of Stoicism, and I just have recently developed a little bit of a critique or a criticism for Stoicism, because I don't think anything that you've mentioned has been anything that I've disagreed with. A lot of the sayings that I get from Stoicism are ones like, this too shall pass, don't judge it, what you resist persists. Those are all kind of Stoic principles. My feelings on it, or recently what I've been, it kind of clashes with some of the philosophies I've been developing recently. And that's one of predestination, where you can't influence the universe in any way. And so, being that I've been getting more into manifestation, frequency, vibration, that sort of thing, I think Stoicism is really masculine and really objective. And so It doesn't give any wiggle room or any gray area where it's like, a lot of the folks that I've been learning from are like, hey, you can influence the universe with your intention, with your energy. You can change history. You can change your fate. You still have a chance. You just have to
I think
believe it's possible.
No, I 100% agree with you, Tony. And you make a really good point. Like it's about, when you're reading something, right? You have your own life circumstances that are going to influence how you interpret something. Like I read something, you read something, how you interpret is going to be completely different from how I interpret it. And I'm taking the best out of kind of what I read. I'm like, okay, is this benefiting me? Yes. But are there other philosophy or other things that I've read in my life that I can like, mix with this? I 100% believe in manifestation, 100%. Like, because that's something I've seen proof of, but I'm taking the other good things out of, Stoicism, other principles, and then applying it to my life with a mix of, it's not living, like black or white. Like there's always going to be a gray area. It's a gray area that my shade of gray is going to be different from, oh man, like we're talking about 50 shades of gray now. My shade of gray, it's going to be different from yours, but it makes me happy in kind of the stage that I'm in. I'm going to apply whatever I read in a different way based on my life situation than how you're going to apply it. So yeah, you make a very good, valid point there.
Awesome. I'm glad that.
Yeah, man, this has been an interesting talk. Like, we went to real estate, Stoicism, 50 Shades of Grey. Man, it's got everything. It's a blockbuster movie, Yeah.
Okay, last one here since we're wrapping it up. Dakota, are you cool with me wrapping it up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So our final question we like to ask all of our guests. This is a deep one, so we'll have another philosophical ending. So I want you to fast forward to the end of your life. We'll say that you lived until 110. I feel like Indian people live longer. So most of the people we've had on the podcast, we've said 100, you're going to live to 110. So you fast forward to the end of your life, and you have one final message to give. It's your message to the world. So it could be a billboard, it could be a mantra, it could be a paragraph, a sentence, it could be a saying, something that you think would be a quality message to give back to the world. And people will point at it and go, yeah, Sharad would have said that for sure. It is your legacy message to the world. What are you saying, Sharad?
Oh man, that's a deep question. I don't know, man. Like right now, a couple of things come to my mind is like a couple of books that have had big influence on my life is like The One Thing. That's had a huge influence. So I would say like pick your one thing. It's a long message. We're gonna need a big billboard. It's gonna be expensive for my kids, man. They're gonna hate me. Yeah. So pick a one thing, right? And be better at it than anybody else. And then just focus on the things that will help you get really, really good at it, better than anybody else. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a big billboard, man. Sorry, it's not we buy houses, call this number. It's not that kind of a billboard.
Awesome. Well, it's been great having you on, Sharad. If people want to get a hold of you, if our listeners want to get a hold of you, how should they do that?
Don't go to Instagram. Yeah, just email Sharad at resimpli.com. Yeah, that's the best way.
And then what final thoughts do you want to share with our listeners before we get off here?
Yeah, just bringing it back to like real estate investing. I would say people that are getting started, like a couple of things, like marketing tends to be the biggest thing that people like kind of shy away from. They're not like most unsure about, I should say. I would say just pick a marketing channel. At the end of the day, everything works. Every marketing channel will give you ROI. You'll make money on it. Some will be more, some will be less. But based on given your budget, given your personality, by personality, I mean, I don't feel comfortable cold calling myself. So if I did everything on my own, I would not pick cold calling. I would not pick SMS. I would pick direct mail. That's just me. I feel comfortable with it. That's like sort of inbound, outbound marketing mix. But just pick something that you feel comfortable with, that you can stick with long enough, like at least 6 months, and then just take action. Just take action. Things will definitely work out if you stick with it long enough. That's the back of the billboard. It's a two-sided billboard.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man, for coming on. And like, yeah, if you guys do end up doing marketing, then you will need a CRM. Don't use Google Sheets or anything like that. Get a CRM. We have tried several of them. And so, yeah, we really do like the interface of the CRM. It does like 90% of what we want to do. What I found is I came from the car industry, and obviously they got CRMs for days and, in dealerships. But for actual investors, there's not a whole lot of them out there. There's not any of them that do everything that RE Simply does, which I know it's way more than a CRM. Like, obviously you got so much other stuff, but I want to highlight just a couple things really quick for everybody who's interested in getting it. One of my favorite things is obviously the marketing channels. You have a phone number for the marketing channels that you want. So if it's a bandit sign, it'll literally say bandit sign, press hash to answer call. And that's how you know what that call is, or it'll say direct mail. So it's direct mail. And then it automatically inputs that into the CRM. And so then you're going to know where that lead came from, which again makes the KPIs so much easier. Which after you find out the back end stuff, which brings me to my next point, which is
it records the phone calls too, so you can go back and re-listen to them.
Oh yeah, whenever they say that they want to back out or whatever later, and they say they were never interested, you can actually send that to your lawyer. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I want to say, like, Sharad, like, thank you for coming on. But then also I want to like point out that, like, dude, you're awesome, dude, and like have always helped us out with any questions that we did have. You jumped on Zoom calls with us to try to help figure something out for it. You're like super responsive, which I feel like is very, very difficult. Especially when you're trying to get something solved, like, other companies that we work with, like, I don't want to name names or anything like that, just other companies that we use. will take a week to get back, even though we give them a lot of money too. But you've always been awesome with that. So yeah, thank you.
For us, it goes back to when we want to constantly improve. Like every day, we want to come in and improve. And the only way we improve is like reaching out to investors like yourself. Hey, what else could we do to, better serve you? So thank you for always giving us your awesome feedback.
Yeah, thank you, man. And yeah, guys, use our code if you're gonna sign up for RE Simply. We definitely always promote them out of any other CRM that we've ever used. They've been the best. So use our code. We'll put it in the link, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Cool.
Peace.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.